All right. Vlog number 4. Let's go ahead and get into this. So I've talked quite a bit up to this point about how the 2016 football season really helped us take off. So I think it's important that I document the events that took place leading up to that. Now, first off, and the reasons are first off because it was such an exciting time for the company, such an exciting time for the team, and such an exciting time for myself. And then second, I think the obvious reason is it's important that I keep a record of what it was that we did, how we ended up doing it, why we did it, was it beneficial, what would we have done differently, those types of things, especially as we're just about to start the new football season now. So at this point, I have decided to go all in. And I'm realizing now that I really need to make this work, especially since this will be one of the vehicles that I use to help support my family. And a little more about my mindset at the time. Now, my initial meeting with the owners of the company, Algae and Lavelle Fuimono, who happen to be brothers, the outcome of that meeting would be that I would come on for a short probation, and after a month or so, we'd meet and then determine if this would be a good fit for both of us, which I think was a great idea. Now, if it does happen to work at that time, then they'd be willing to offer me 20% of the company. Again, which I thought was more than fair, especially since my role would be strictly sales, something that I have a background in and something that I really enjoyed. So, after that discussion, I now start thinking about how I can start selling the product or start selling t-shirts. And this is all happening in February, March of 2015. So coming off the selling success, not necessarily the business success of the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame, because it was the company that we had partnered up with for that event that we ended up splitting ways with. But again, coming off the selling success, it was obvious that the path would be some type of Polynesian sporting event. And it just happened that the Big John's basketball tournament was getting restarted again after taking a few years off. And I was familiar with the tournament. It's been popular in Utah. And I thought this would be right up our alley. I even knew some of the people that were running it. So I reach out via Facebook. It turns into a phone call, and then we start corresponding through email. And so in essence, I see this as my opportunity for a first sale. And so I'm excited and super motivated to make this happen. Now, from a sales standpoint, for me, getting the sales has always been the easy part. And typically once I make the sale, I would move on to finding my next sale, and someone would come in and take care of the fulfillment. But in this case, it was up to all of us to handle, the three of us to handle, which was new in a couple of different ways. First, the transition from not moving on was different for me, especially the salesman in me. I wanted to immediately get back into the hunt of things, but I realized that it would take time for me to see this through. Second, I'm entirely new to the t-shirt or the apparel industry and don't really even understand how to fulfill the order. And three, I'm working with a new team, and the working dynamic needs to be established. We've met and talked about how the business can be run and different things that we can do, but now we're about to get into the details and the work of it. And so it took some time to establish roles and responsibilities, and we're still doing that now. And then even selling in bulk was new to them. Mass producing shirts, the working with the printer, they had done a little bit of that, but on the level that we were about to do this was new to them too. And so we were all learning together. And then four, I think we just came off this bad experience with this other company. And so, we were trying to be cautious and just make sure that we do everything right. So I begin by starting to send some designs over, and the designs are created by Algae with some help from Lavelle. From a sales standpoint, it's great. I know that I have this great product, and that once people see it, it's going to generate some interest. And that's exactly what happens. They look over the designs, and then we start going back and forth a few times, adding some things, making some changes here and there. And I think one of the first lessons that I learned was that the design approval process can be lengthy, and it can be frustrating too if guidelines aren't set first. We definitely learned that the hard way. And we're still trying to fine tune that whole process. So once we get the design approved, then we start discussing pricing. And this is another huge lesson that I learned right off. Pricing with t-shirts are based on a number of different factors. And I'm going to touch on the major ones, but there are still some other little things that still affect price. So first is quantity. The larger the order, the better the price per shirt. But of course, the larger the order, the more money spent overall. So it's always interesting, giving a quote. Sizes are, especially if they're working with a budget, sizes are a huge factor as well. Small through extra large are the sizes that most printers price out at as a set price. Again, based on minimum quantity. Now, once you get up to the 2XL and anything larger, the price can increase from $1.50 to even $2 per shirt. And that can bump up the quote really quickly. And since our market is mainly Polynesians, those larger sizes are usually always in demand. The interesting thing, though, has been that most clients over account for larger sizes and end up not needing as many and wishing that they had the smaller sizes. And we've run into that issue ourselves, and that's still something that we're trying to crack the code on. The third factor would be number of colors needed to print, and this really requires an understanding of screen printing and how all of that works. So underlaying colors are needed for certain colored shirts in order to make the color pop or the design pop or stand out. So if you have two shirts, same design, same colors in the design, but the shirts are a different color, depending on what color it is, you may need an extra color. And each additional color needed per design adds cost. And so that's something that usually needs to be explained to help a client understand why, well, it's the same design, why am I paying more per shirt? Then also, any type of printing on the back, on the collar, on the sleeve, anything like that adds cost. From the printer side, you have a setup fee. You have a screen fee for creating the screen. And one thing that I found interesting is that even though we pay for the screen to be created, we don't own the screen and we don't keep it. And once the printing job is done, they reuse the screen for whatever else they need it for. So if we go back later and want to print that same design, they still need to recreate the screen, and of course we need to pay for that. Also, setup charges are per design. So if there's any change in design and they need to take the screens down and put up new screens, then we'll end up paying for those as well. And all of these things, I realized that quantity would be a factor, and I think I realized that the number of colors of ink that would be used would bring changes in pricing. But that was probably about it. And each printer is different, and some charge for some things which they don't charge for other things, include certain things. For instance, some printers will allow us to go up to a 2XL on a standard price and then only increase it afterwards. But all of these things, I've got to, as a salesman, determine, okay, here are the printer's guidelines, figure out how they work, get pricing according to the way that printer works, and then put pricing together for the client, and then sometimes have to explain to the client why the pricing is as it is. And I think there's this misconception about pricing for t-shirts, that you can say, here's my design, here's the size, how much does it cost? Because that seems to be the question that we get quite a bit. Well, I want a design, what's the cost on it? And I don't think people realize everything that needs to go into it. Not that that's the responsibility, but I've learned that an explanation is needed almost in every situation when giving a quote. So anyway, and I think the biggest thing is, even to this day, with as much as I've learned, with printers. I still have tons of questions for our printer, and I'm learning new things with every order. So anyway, we start getting closer to the event. We've agreed on the design, and we've agreed on pricing. The last bit is now just getting payment for the order, and most printers are willing to allow you to pay once the order is picked up, so you don't really need anything up front. Some printers will require 50% up front. Again, I think it depends on the relationship, but the printer that we were working with at this time allowed us to go ahead and start the order, and then once we picked it up, pay for the order at that time. But again, coming from this situation where there was a bad split from this partnership, and that company still owes us money even to this day. We decided as a business practice that monies would need to be collected and paid up front, and that we would pay the printer immediately once we picked up the shirts. So it's getting to be about a week out before the event is going to happen. We've agreed on about 500 shirts, and of course this is a big deal for us as a company. It's a huge order. It's a big deal for me. It's my first sale, per se. The profit on it is pretty good, and we have everything set up with the printer. They've actually already ordered the shirts, so they have shirts in house. All they're doing is waiting for us to pull the trigger on it and say let's go. And also it takes the printer about 4 to 5 days to complete the order. So there's some urgency here and obviously a deadline. Now, a little bit about the client that we're working with. It's a nonprofit organization. Again, they've haven't done anything for a few years, and they're just trying to get back up on their feet as they're putting this event together. And having conversations with them, learning some new things about what they need to do, I come to the understanding that their funds are based on the attendance of the event, which would make sense. And then there's a lot of different expenses that need to be taken care of. They need to rent out the school. They need to pay for security. They need to pay for the referees that are going to be there. And then, just coordinating this huge basketball tournament. I mean, I think 60, 70 teams, different ages, different brackets. It's a 3-day basketball tournament. Making sure all of this works smoothly, it takes a lot of work. And t-shirts or apparel is just not a huge priority for them. It's one of those things that would be great to have, especially if they can use it as a fundraiser. But in the overall scheme of things, it's probably further down the line. So we get to the final day where the order has to be placed in order for it to be completed in time. And up to this point, everything is working well. The communication is fine, and they're saying, well, let's wait till the final day, because then we'll have monies together that we've gathered from different places, and then be able to push the order through. Comes up to that final day, and I get an email saying that they won't be moving forward. It just doesn't make sense for them financially. So, obviously it's a huge letdown for us. It was, again, our first deal, big deal. We're super excited about it. But it doesn't happen. And it's a great learning experience from us, for us, and a lot of lessons that we take away from that. And I'll share those. Now, but one of the good things was that it was being held at West High School. And we ended up doing shirts for the girls softball team. And the girls were going to be helping out with the event by running the ticket booth, concession stands, helping get the teams where they needed to be, all those types of things. And they had seen the designs that we were putting together for the tournament, said, hey, will you guys do something for us? And so we did, and it wasn't as big of an order as that the 500 shirts would have been for the tournament. But that order turned into about 3 different orders that year, and then we've ended up doing their state championship shirts for them this year, which turned into 3 different orders, and then just our relationship with them has led to a number of different projects. So overall, that event was a big win for us, for not just the West High order, but again, for what it did for our company, helping us learn essentially our industry and learn how to what to do in the next situation. But so by this time, seeing the amount of work that I have put into trying to get this Big John's event to happen, getting the West High event, and walking away with some sales and seeing some money come in, plus some of the other things that I had worked on and had gotten started and will come down the line. Aljay and Lavelle, we meet, and they offer me an equal share of the company, which I of course accept. Now, from a business standpoint, I think this was great. For me, I finally have this business that I've always wanted. I feel like I've got a great product. I feel like there's tons of potential. We've already had a couple wins. And the losses that we had, if you want to see losses, were out of our hands, but still showed that there was huge potential. I mean, it wasn't a quality issue. It wasn't a product issue. It was just funding. And that's something they just didn't have the budget to do it. And that's something I felt like, well, we can get over that. We just need to find clients that have the budget. And that turned out to be the case. But also some other things that it changed, of course, was now I feel more accountability and responsibility to the team, to Aljay and Lavelle, to the company. I have finally this vehicle that I can do something with if I want to, and it also, made me realize that there's work that needs to be done. That owning a business is not the same as running a business, and that as much as nice as it sounds to say, "Hey, I'm an owner," or "I'm a partner," that doesn't mean anything if there's no business to be an owner or partner of. And so there was tons of work to do, and there's still tons of work to do. And but being a partner has been a great motivator for me. So anyway, that's kind of our first sales, first deal that falls through, but led to, again, the West High deal, which I guess counts as our first sale as a team, my first sale, and has led to some other things which I'll talk about later on. But so the takeaways from this, for the record, our second job, or my first job, it didn't go exactly the way that we wanted, but it was still a big win for us because of the lessons that we learned. And it was a great opportunity for me to just get my feet wet and learn by doing. Number two, it's okay if you don't know how to do something. Part of learning was, again, getting out there and just doing it and making mistakes. Quoting the pricing was a tricky situation because I was so confident first off, oh yeah, I've got this figured out, sent that over, and then realized later, well, that's incorrect, and had to go back and before sending pricing over again, I had to explain to them the pricing was incorrect and there was going to be an increase. But before I sent that second quote over, I really needed to understand what the pricing was going to be, and then understanding from a company standpoint, how can I manage that? Is there something that I can do to get our clients a better price? If I increase the amount of sales here, change sizes here, use a different brand of shirts, eliminate one color, but use a different design that's maybe not as many colors, but still showcases the design really well. Things like that. What could I do to help the client and still get a great price from the printer and all those things? And so, I really walked away with a better understanding that's helped me even up to this point. And the other thing that I learned too is asking questions, and that's a huge thing for me. I think it's one of the secrets to my success is that I'm never afraid to ask a question if it's something that I don't know. Moving from employee to owner was a big move for me, and again, it's still a driving factor for me. but it changes how you look at things psychologically, mentally, emotionally. I think how you feel about it. I think from the employee standpoint, I could easily say, well, it's been great, but I think I've had enough. I want to sell something else. But as an owner, I mean, I feel attached. I feel invested, and so it's become an important priority for me. And I still, because I see such great potential, I'm grateful that I've been given the opportunity. How you function as a team is super important. Again, we're so brand new, and we're all learning each other's personalities and skill sets, and how we manage or how we react to circumstances that are unexpected. I think, especially as a team, maybe as a new team, when things are going great, there's that type of interaction. But when things change and don't go as expected or even go poorly, you sometimes get to see the true nature of a team. And it was a great opportunity to find out, I think for myself, if we had a team that could sustain itself when things didn't go exactly the way that we wanted. And I mean, the obvious answer is we're still here and still moving forward. But I think it not happening the way that we wanted to forced us to really show our true nature. And so, it was good to see, okay, well, when things go wrong, am I part of a team that's going to stick it out, or do we just fall apart? And we have a great team that way. Again, just how to react to unexpected income. It's important to the company and to our own personal growth. We've continued to have ups and downs up to this point, but when we have the downs, I mean, we really just kind of fly through them now, because we took such a major hit at the beginning. Two experiences back to back where things didn't go in our favor. I think so. Now things, as we run into them, they really kind of come off minor. And then number 6, I'm still learning lessons from this situation, which I think is the biggest win, at least for me. I think because of that, we're a better company. Because of that, we've implemented processes in the way that we do business that we might not have done had we just had a straight win, and it could have cost us later on. So 500 shirts seemed like this huge deal at that point, but as we move into working with the NCAA and universities, the 500 is really a small order. But because we made the mistakes, or maybe not made the mistakes, but because it didn't go the way that we wanted to then, and it fell through, we knew how to handle ourselves as we came into some of these bigger deals. So next vlog, I'll try to get to the NCAA stuff, because I think that's important for me to document while a lot of that's still fresh. But there are so many other things that happened before that, and I'm starting to remember these things as I've started recording these, documenting the history. And some really great things, again, that just taught us lessons that we're still using to this day. So that's about all that I want to say about that, and let's go ahead and get to work. Thanks.